Trump just did it again. If you're invested in Micron stock, in AMD stock, in Nvidia stock, in Sofi stock, or just in the general stock market, you need to know that tomorrow is going to be a very, very important day because Nvidia earnings are coming out and the whole quote unquote AI bubble is looking to see what is going to happen. Nvidia needs to give amazing earnings in order to justify this huge valuation, this massive run-up that Nvidia has seen over the past few weeks. We even learned that one of the most successful investors in the last few months that a lot of people have been talking about is like the golden boy of the last few months has actually flipped on the market. We'll talk about that. Make sure to watch all the way to the end of the video to get the latest and the greatest information, the latest and the greatest news. Now, all I ask from you, I'm a simple man, is that you give me a beautiful smile to send out those good vibes. Smishity smash that like button. Let's try to get 1,000 likes on this stock video. I know you guys can do it. Please read the disclaimer. So right now, the stock market is cooking this morning. Up a little bit. Futures are going to open up in about 6 minutes. So we'll get to that. Sorry, not futures. I misspoke there. Pre-market. Futures are already open and they are up a little bit here. This is the graph that I'm looking at right now, up 0.13% on the day. This comeback that we saw in the stock market came after President Trump suddenly, decided that he's going to postpone his very major attack that he was planning for tomorrow or today. And of course, it came after a few countries, Saudi Arabia, UAE, and Qatar asked him to wait a little bit. We know that the real reason why President Trump changed his tune is because of the 10-year note and the fact that it went above 4.5%. If you've been watching the channel for a while, you know that I told my mother-in-law that she was concerned that the conflict would start up again, and it's a holiday this week. What's going to happen? And I told her, don't worry about it. The yield just went over 4.5%, or it's getting very close to 4.5%. President Trump's he's gonna do a flipperoo, right? And that's exactly what happened. Now, the question is going to be, the market was concerned of two things. The market was concerned about the potential attack, and the market was concerned about the fact that the yield actually went over that 4.5 value. Now we're going to have to see today two things. There's going to be fear about what could potentially happen with Nvidia's earning tomorrow, but the fear of the attack is off the table. And we saw that very interestingly, how the VIX went green last night when you had a red day for most of the stock market, and yet the VIX was in the green, right? Sorry, the VIX was in the red. Right now it's in the green. It's up a little bit this morning, right? The VIX ended up yesterday in the red. If we look at the daily chart, right? It was down. So that was a very interesting type of scenario that came out. Now, if we look at Micron, and we've talked about Micron a lot and how Micron, some people will say it's overvalued. Some people will say it's undervalued. We'll get to Leopold in just a second. That's the investor I mentioned. Right now, Micron was pulled up significantly. If we're looking at the stochastic RSI, which is a tool that I like to use. It did sit here on the 13 EMA. Someone asked me in the comment section, what is the 1348 EMA? It's a tool that I like to use. It gives indication. It's not 100% accurate, but it gives us many times indication of if there's about to be a run-up, right? And many algos will actually trade according to it. Okay, so that's why I like to use it. Again, sometimes there's misinformation on it because right here, for example, it gave the red signal and then the green signal, but that was because of the pullback of the conflict, right? And it wasn't really in the momentum of the stock. And then you can see how Micron stock recovered after that. If we're looking at Nvidia, of course, Nvidia stock has a big day tomorrow, and that could affect all of the quote unquote AI stocks. It could be semiconductors. It could be the memory stocks, Micron, SanDisk. It could be, of course, infrastructure stocks like the Coherence and the BEs, which is energy, right? I mentioned yesterday, the solar companies, the optic cable companies, right, that had been doing so amazing pullback over the last 3 days. As the concern of, is this a bubble, plus what is going to happen with Nvidia's earnings and what are they going to tell us? Of course, AMD had their own earnings just a few days ago, but it will also be interesting to see what Nvidia is going to say and what they are expecting. So AMD is also cooled off a little bit after a massive rally from 200 to over 400 in a very, very short period of time. Palantir was one of the ones that had a green day yesterday, but also is pretty flat. And we have, of course, Sofi. Sofi, again, we talked about that double bottom here for Sofi stock that could potentially see some breakout, but we'll have to see what SoFi does here. I want to see a little bit of a momentum and potentially a crossover here for SoFi stock on the 1348 EMA. As always, I just want to remind you that this video is for educational purposes, for entertainment purposes only, not financial advice. Always do your own due diligence before you decide to invest. I don't know day to day what's going to happen. Like yesterday was a very kind of mixed day for the stock market, and we'll see what happens today. But for example, the South Korean stock market just pulled back significantly, almost 4% down. And this is coming with Samsung, which is the biggest stock there, taking a 2.22% pullback. Again, this is a potential selling of overheated AI and chip stocks after a massive rally. Like their stock market had been doing very, very good, and now we're seeing a pullback. So the question is, does this trickle into the US stock market? Remember, we have been on an amazing run here for the S&P 500, for the NASDAQ, and history has told us that sometimes you'll have these big run-ups, but then you'll have a pullback. You might have a big run-up, but eventually you have some sort of pullback. And the question is, will this be a small pullback or will this be a big pullback? And that's going to be the question. Now, yesterday we did see a lot of 13Fs coming out, a lot of new deals and what's happening, and we can go over. There's a lot of information. Actually, this is a really good post here by Amit. And he says about the markets yesterday, he says, markets whiplash through the day as Iran headlines shifted. Pre-market stocks turned sharply green after reports suggested the U.S. was opening to unfreezing Iran's assets, reversing the weakness from overnight futures. At the open, sentiment flipped after headlines said the U.S. was rejecting Iran's latest proposal, and oil and bonds moved higher. And then the president came out and said that he's going to push it, and then everything flipped back. And there was talks about SpaceX reported IPOs. Maybe we'll talk about that in a different video. There was, of course, yesterday OpenAI and their win against Elon Musk. Citi talking about server CPU market growing from 23 billion in 2025 to 131 billion by 2030. So, of course, this would be significant for companies like AMD, like Intel, and of course, for Micron as well, as the data centers continue to grow, driven largely by the rise of agentic AI workloads. The bank expects the biggest growth category to be agentic CPU applications, forecasting the segment to grow at a 185 CAGR to 59.4 billion by 2030, representing 45% of the total server CPU market. Citi projected 2030 market share breakdown is Intel at 47, AMD at 34, and ARM based as another player, and other players at 19%. And we did see ARM, for example, go up yesterday about almost 3%. So that was interesting. Then there was also where the contracts were, Bank of America with a buy on Netflix. And of course, Kevin Warsh getting sworn in. A lot of things happened. And we're talking about tokenization as well. But what was really interesting and had a lot of the stock market enthusiasts talking yesterday was the Leopold, I don't want to pronounce his last name, quarter one 13F. If you don't know who Leopold Aschenbrenner is, he used to be on the OpenAI team, and then he started a hedge fund, and they were really successfully invested in a lot of AI and AI infrastructure, and went up significantly, billions and billions of dollars. And a lot of people have been looking at him and seeing what he is investing in. So he came out with his 13F. And interestingly, many people notice that he has a lot of put contracts, right? So he is basically betting that in the short term, there's going to be a pullback in the whole AI infrastructure bubble, right? So he has a put on the SMH, the VanEck Semiconductor ETF. He has a put on Nvidia, on Oracle, on Broadcom, on AMD. He actually bought BE. So we talked about BE, right? He bought SanDisk. He made a put on Micron. He has CoreWeave, TSM. He has a put, and then he added new positions actually in Micron, a call, TSM, a call, and SanDisk, a call. Interesting. And he did buy CleanSpark and Riot, which are actually, interestingly, companies that were more in crypto mining that could be shifting to AI as well. He sold Intel call that he had, probably with big profit, Lumentum, EQT, and TSEM also. So he kept his AI infrastructure longs and opened puts against some of his positions. So this is very interesting. Maybe this is some hedging of potential short-term pullbacks, and then profiting off of the potential pullback, and then going long on those stocks. So again, this could be one of the reasons why we're seeing a little bit of pressure just around everything that's AI because of this kind of shift. Hey, there needs to be a pullback. Things don't go parabolic forever, even if long term there's high probability that the prices continue to rise in this whole sector because there's so much money coming in. But there is always the probability that the market cools off a little bit for a short period of time. And that's usually when investors make mistakes. Instead of sticking to their plan, they freak out because this is how it is. The psychological part of investing is the hardest. When something's going up, you keep saying to yourself, oh, it's going to continue to go up, right? I don't need to take profits. I don't need to do this and that. I don't want 1x. I want 2x. I want 20x, right? But when something's pulling back and suddenly your position is down 20-30% and you're like, oh my G, right? Why didn't I do this and that when it was much higher? It's always shoulda, coulda, woulda. You don't know what's going to happen. And if you have a plan in place, if you say to yourself, okay, I'm doing 1, 2, 3, if 3, 4, 5 happens, then you're much more cool, calm, and collected when a potential pullback happens. The worst thing was for many investors back in the day in 2020 and 2021 was that people were only seeing up. And I feel like we're in this same kind of scenario where a lot of these stocks, Micron and SanDisk and AMD right now, and a lot of others that we covered, BE and others that have just been on these amazing run-ups, going over 100% in many of these situations over the past 6 months, that many investors that are new to the stock market, because there's a lot of new investors in the stock market because it's doing so good, this is just how it is, they are only experiencing the up. And potentially the down is when they don't know what to do. It's just like a unexperienced driver, right? When someone's unexperienced in driving, at the beginning, it's fine, right? You're doing okay, nothing happens. But then suddenly you hit a traffic jam, or you hit something like where suddenly, a highway, where suddenly there's a lot of factors running at you. Then a new driver freaks out, and many times they'll make an accident. So I like that parallel to what potentially being in the stock market right now. We're just cruising along. We were cruising along for a while, especially in a lot of these stocks, and now suddenly we're getting all these things that are coming after us. So this will be very interesting to see what happens. And again, we also have Nvidia earnings, which tomorrow that could be a curveball to the whole market. Their earnings need to be top of the line, and they need to be very good with the huge run up that Nvidia has had over the past few weeks. So we'll see how this plays out. Remember to subscribe to the channel if you want more stock updates. And the easiest thing to support is to just smash that like button. I don't know what happened there. Just smash that like button. Thank you for watching. I hope to see you next time. And like I always say, let's make a lot of money.